With the newly released Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, Godzilla and Kong fought once again, this time in Egypt with the Great Pyramids. At the end of the fight, the victor was quite clearly Godzilla, but man did he get his ass beat. Similarly with Godzilla vs Kong, there's been a heated back and forth between Godzilla and Kong fans. Wow. No shit. This time, it's for a very good reason. Unlike in GVK, where Godzilla just absolutely slammed Kong, Kong got some major hits on Godzilla. Due to this, the question of could Kong have killed Godzilla in their Egypt fight sprung up. Hello everyone, I'm FDA, and I'm going to be answering this question while respecting both Godzilla and Kong fans to determine the answer to this heavily debated question. Firstly, let's go ahead and analyze their fight. Kong, being an Alpha Titan, used something similar to an Alpha Call, but only directed it towards Godzilla. Godzilla, expecting that Kong remains in the Hollow Earth, was absolutely enraged at the thought of Kong not only disrespecting him, but being in his territory. Due to this, he made a direct beeline towards Kong from Gibraltar, jumping off of a cliff and heading towards Egypt. Godzilla, as we saw throughout GXK, was not exactly sparing in regards to Titan life, as seen when destroying Scylla and Tiamat. Kong, on the other hand, was asking for his help in order to combat the threat that was Scar King Shimo and his army. As we saw, Godzilla was absolutely pissed at Kong. Thanks to the Godzilla x Kong novelization by Greg Keyes, we know Godzilla's turf is the entirety of the surface, and he can sense that Kong was in the Hollow Earth, at least at the beginning of GXK. We can see how mad Godzilla was, just launching out of the canal and making landfall, destroying any building that happened to be in his way. Kong can see Godzilla charging toward him, but he tries to show him that he needs his help by pointing at the Hollow Earth portal. It's not that Godzilla exactly couldn't understand him, it's not really that Godzilla's dumb, he just doesn't care. Up to the very last second, Kong still tries to show Godzilla that he doesn't want to fight, but realizes Godzilla is gonna try to kill him. Godzilla completely ignores this and tackles him through the pyramid, sending him barreling into another pyramid. Godzilla doesn't even hesitate for a single second and immediately charges towards him, but Kong throws sand in Godzilla's eye, temporarily blinding him, allowing for Kong to get out of the way. Something that's a bit confusing is that thanks to Godzilla Dominion, we know Godzilla has thermal vision, so having sand in his eye shouldn't exactly be a problem for him, but we'll just let that slide. Again, Godzilla charges toward Kong and thanks to his newly evolved form, is easily able to blitz Kong and effortlessly overpowers him, pinning him against another pyramid. Straight out of a WWE main event, Godzilla grabs Kong and suplexes him into the ground, leaving Kong dazed.
Here's number one, Houston.
This allowed Godzilla to lift his foot, but Kong barely rolls out of the way and gets back on his feet. Godzilla once again charges towards Kong, thirsty for his blood, but Kong has his beast glove ready and rocks Godzilla with an uppercut, sending him to the ground. Kong takes advantage and slams onto him. Godzilla tries to bite the glove, but doesn't have a good grip on it, and Kong just unloads a fury of punches on Godzilla. Man, if only Godzilla had a larger mouth like someone like Shimo. After the dust settles, Kong begins to drag Godzilla by his tail towards the Hollow Earth portal. Contrary to popular belief, Godzilla was not knocked out here, rather dazed. I've seen so many Kong fans say he was knocked out. He's clearly still awake. There is no time skip, which is also similar to when Godzilla suplexed Kong earlier in their fight. Godzilla begins to charge up his atomic breath, and Kong has no choice but to run or just get fried. Kong narrowly avoids the atomic breath as he dives out of the way. As a result, the area is shrouded in dust. Godzilla comes charging through, seemingly unfazed by the brief beating he received, almost more annoyed of anything, and slams Kong to the ground. Raising his foot, he stomps Kong into the sand, similarly to what happened in Hong Kong. Luckily for Kong, the sand absorbed at least some of Godzilla's weight, so Kong wasn't getting instantly crushed. It seems as if Kong will get vaporized, as his attempts to pry Godzilla's foot off is utterly useless. Right as Godzilla is about to unleash his atomic breath, he is blown back as Mothra swoops in to save Kong and unite the two alphas against a common enemy. This fight was absolutely amazing, and I honestly loved every second of it. After analyzing what happened in their brief brawl, let's answer the main question. Could Kong have killed Godzilla here? Well, absolutely not, and let me explain why. As we see when Kong is unloading on Godzilla, it takes a total of 11 punches to just daze him. Imagine one of those old cartoons where a character has birds flying around their head. That's what happened to Godzilla, similarly to when Godzilla suplexed Kong. What we have to factor in is that originally, Kong was not trying to kill him. Kong had no choice but to fight back in that instance. But you know who does have a choice? You. And that choice is pressing the subscribe button, so go along and smash it for me. It only takes a couple of seconds. The issue with Kong trying to kill Godzilla is that he has nothing at his disposal to even injure Godzilla. As we all know, Godzilla's durability and power increases drastically as he gains more radiation. Godzilla had just evolved, so all of this energy he gained from supercharging in France and absorbing energy in Tiamat's lair has kind of faded away, as all of this energy is required to simply evolve, so he's definitely not as radiated as Boston or France, or even when he's supercharged in Rio. Godzilla is no doubtly more powerful than his previous base, but in Egypt he's nowhere near as powerful in Rio, as he's only 2 times his base form. However, this statement is kinda iffy because it comes from something like trying to promote like the hype of the the movie, how it's like, oh, it's like 2 times more exciting or whatever. So yeah, just take that at face value, I guess. Looking back at their fight in Egypt, if this fight was to the death, Kong could very well punch Godzilla repeatedly, but it wouldn't do lasting damage in order to prevent Godzilla from getting up, and as we saw in the film, stomp Kong to the ground and vaporize him. Godzilla was honestly quite dumb in this fight, and there's kind of a reason behind that. Instead of just blasting his atomic breath from the other side of Cairo or unleashing a pulse to just one-shot him, he goes head first into Kong. As we all saw, he is just completely bloodlusted. He's not looking for a quick fight, rather one that gives Kong a maximum amount of pain as he's defying his alpha status. When you're bloodlusted, I think it's common sense that when you're bloodlusted, you're not exactly thinking straight. Pumping with adrenaline, thoughts can simply pass over your head, acting on whatever is in your mind. Realistically, Godzilla honestly wasn't even using anywhere near his full power. Not to mention, we have to factor in Godzilla's Thagomizer. While he was on the ground, he could very easily use his tail, considering it's basically an extra limb, and swing it into Kong, knocking him over and allowing Godzilla to get back up. There's far too many ways for Godzilla to easily break free if Kong does manage to get him on the ground and proceed to stomp him into the ground or just incinerate him with his nuclear pulse. While I love Kong, when Kong fans say that, oh, he could just keep punching him and knock him out, while yes, 20 punches could probably end up knocking him out, Godzilla was still conscious enough to use a nuclear pulse. We all know he didn't because of plot armor. But if this fight was to the death, Godzilla would be using every ability he has, and his nuclear pulse would, let's be real here, just one-shot Kong. Well, what if Kong tries to break free from under Godzilla's foot? Well, here's the issue. He wouldn't be able to. While Kong was originally not wanting to fight Godzilla when Godzilla had pinned him to the ground, he realized that this is life or death and desperately tried to pry Godzilla's foot off of him in order to fight back. And as we all saw, he was just simply unable to because Godzilla not only weighed too much, but had easily overpowered him to the point where Godzilla was a second away from giving him the same treatment Scylla received. A lot of Kong fans will point to when he was blocking Shimo's Frostbite Blast for around a minute. Well, Shimo's Frostbite Blast doesn't really do any visible damage, as we see it really just freezes their opponents. So yeah, if Godzilla has Kong pinned to the ground, he's gonna give him the same treatment Scylla received. Okay, well, what if Kong has his axe and Beast Glove? The axe would suffer one of 2 things. One, he wouldn't even be able to charge it or harness Godzilla's atomic breath because, well, Godzilla, as we all saw at the end of GVK, realized charging it up with his atomic breath makes it stronger. So anytime Kong attempts to shield himself from it, Godzilla would simply not fire. The second scenario is that the axe would be completely ineffective. As we all know, this axe is from an ancient Gojira specimen. Considering his atomic breath is significantly stronger than before, this old dorsal plate would not be able to withstand and harness this new energy from Godzilla's newly evolved form. As a result, his axe's dorsal plate could potentially melt in his hand or overcharge and explode, sending him flying, as let's be real here, the dorsal is not evolving like Godzilla, as well, the Godzilla which previously had it is dead. In conclusion, you could give Kong his Beast Glove and his axe, and he really wouldn't be able to win or kill Godzilla in his evolved form. Now, could he if Godzilla win his base? That will be answered in a future video. Godzilla is far too powerful in this evolved form. Kong's Beast Glove and Fist wouldn't be able to do any significant damage to prevent Godzilla from recovering, pinning him to the ground, and vaporizing him, leaving the winner with ease as Godzilla. Did you guys agree with my reasoning behind the conclusion? Let me know in the comments below, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and consider dropping a like and subscribing for more Godzilla content like this. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video, and I'm sorry for not uploading last week as I was kind of busy, and I'm not gonna lie, I did kind of procrastinate, but that's on me, guys. Tune in next week where we see if the Godzillasaurus from -1 could beat the Giganotosaurus from Ark Survival. See ya!
I created a monster, cause nobody wants to see monster no more. They want shady, I'm top liver. Well, if you want shady, this is what